I just have one question. Will I see any? Will I be seeing anything on my screen here when someone has a question or wants to make a comment, or will you be, or someone telling me when there is comments or questions?
Natisha, do you want to chime in there?
Right. So I will inform any attendees when they can comment, and then we'll be able to. I'll manage that from my end.
Okay. And just for your notification, as we're going through the meeting and I have comments or I'm asking the other commissioners to vote, I will be calling each name in order.
Sure.
Great.
So, all right, then I am calling. Oh, here we go. So we will now call the meeting of the Historic Resources Commission to order at 9:35, and we will take the roll.
Oh, excuse me. Excuse me, Chair Phillips. I was actually going to run through the instructions for participating, if that's all right, before we begin the roll call.
Sure.
Okay. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today for the Historic Resources Commission meeting, which is being held remotely. My name is Annie Murphy, and I am staff to the Historic Resources Commission. Today is April 5th, 2021, and it is 9:37. For those at home who are viewing the hearing or who may wish to participate in the hearing, I wanted to take a moment to explain the technological pieces of the remote hearing before we start with the first item on the agenda. If you have access to a computer with a microphone, you can watch, listen, and provide comments on agenda items through your computer via the Teams link that is provided on the Planning Department webpage. If you do not have access to a computer with a microphone and wish to provide comments, you must call in by dialing 916-318-9542. When prompted, enter the collaboration code 372-960-161#. The phone number and code are also provided on your screen once you begin the login process. If you are participating by phone, you must also mute the sound on your computer. For each agenda item, the chair will provide time for public comments. To comment using a computer with a microphone, the chair will ask callers to remotely raise their hand. This will indicate to us that there is a member of the public who wishes to comment. To raise your hand, click on the open hand symbol at the top of your screen. When the moderator announces your name or phone number, click on the microphone button to speak. To comment, state your name and proceed with your comment. At the end of your comment, your microphone will return to being muted. As in a physical meeting, each person may comment once on each item and has 3 minutes to comment. If you no longer have a comment or question, click on the hand symbol again to lower your hand. For those who will be participating by phone, when the chair asks for comments, enter *5 on your computer to raise your hand. When you're called upon to provide your comment, enter *6 to unmute your phone and speak. At the end of your comment, you'll return to being muted. If at any time you have difficulty with the technology, you may email Natisha Williams, who is moderating our meeting for us today. Her email is natisha.williams@santacruzcounty.us. Okay, it appears we are now situated, and I will turn the meeting over to the HRC Chair, Linda Phillips.
Thank you, Annie. So we will now take roll call. Commissioner Orlando,
Here.
Commissioner Pearlman,
Here.
Commissioner Swift,
Here.
Commissioner Phillips, here.
And I did have an announcement regarding Commissioner Merriam.
Yes, please, Annie.
So as your commission is aware, Supervisor Koenig was recently elected to represent the 1st District in the county. And the supervisor has made several changes to commission appointments. And as one of these decisions, he has decided not to reappoint Commissioner Merriam and will be announcing a new appointment to your commission at the board meeting on April 13th. And I will share the news of this appointment when it has been announced. I can provide that to your commission.
Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda number 2. Has everyone read the agenda? Do any of the commissioners have any modifications to the agenda?
And Chair Phillips, I do have one modification to the agenda.
Okay, Annie?
The agenda item, the review of the certified local government report, which is agenda item 7C. Additional updates are needed to this report, so I recommend deferring this item to the July meeting.
Are there any comments from the commissioners on this modification?
I have a question.
Yes. Commissioner Swift?
Will we have an opportunity during the meeting to express our thanks to Commissioner Merriam? And
Right on the mark. Yes.
okay. Yes, when?
Yes, at the end when we have agenda item number 9.
At the end of the meeting.
So is there any other comments about the agenda or this modification to it?
I want to make a comment on number 4.
Yes. Well,
When we get there.
okay. But nothing about changing it or about the item itself, but you have a comment when we get to number 4.
Yes. Just
Okay.
a bit of information.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the April 5th, 2021 agenda?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
We will now vote on the motion to approve the April 5th, 2021 agenda. Commissioner Orlando?
Okay. I just wanted to say that the Bureau of Land Management is interested in the Mochattini Davenport property, which is situated on the Old Coast Road in Davenport. And they've been in contact with me.
Well, no. Alberta.
Yes.
We're just approving the motion to approve the agenda.
Oh, sorry
We're not
about
at
that.
number 4
I'm
yet.
sorry. Yeah, okay.
So are you voting to approve the motion?
Yes.
To approve the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Pearlman?
Yes.
Commissioner Swift?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips? Yes. The motion for approval has passed. Agenda item number 3, approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of July 11th, 2021. Has everyone read the minutes? Is there
Yes.
any,
I believe you meant January 11th.
comments? Any modifications?
No, they were pretty good.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the July 11th minutes?
Yes. Yes.
Alberta, is that you?
Yes, that's me.
Okay. And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Swift has seconded the motion. We will now vote on the motion to approve the July 11th, 2021 minutes. Commissioner Orlando,
Yes, approved.
Commissioner Perlman,
Yes.
Commissioner Swift,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips, yes. Motion for approval is passed. Agenda item number 4, declaration of ex parte communications. Commissioner Orlando, you have something to.
Well, I wanted to add something, just for information so that everybody will know that the Bureau of Land Management is interested in the Mochitini Dairy property on the Old Coast Road in Davenport. And they have been in contact with me. And if anybody knows anything about that particular piece of property, I would also be interested in hearing about it.
Thank you, Alberta. And if there's particular information that you need, Alberta, let me know, and I can help you with any public information that's available on that property. So let me know
Okay.
afterwards.
Thank you.
Okay, does either of the other commissioners have any comments on any items that is currently on the agenda?
I have a question. We finished with the Merriman interpretive panel last time, correct?
Yes,
Are we
yes.
going to have another report on the current status of the panel?
I could give a report on those from the subcommittee if you would wish.
I would like that.
Okay. Would this be the proper time for me to respond?
Sure, we can do that as a ex parte communication.
Okay, grand. Met with Vanessa. We took the actual wording and listing of the 5 changes. All changes were implemented. The final panels were sent to me. I reread and went over the copy, and we have 100% conformity. And I believe that at that point, Vanessa and I thought we had concluded our work, and she was going to be sending a copy to Annie and to MidPen.
Yes, and I can just confirm that the county did receive the design, and I also reviewed it for conformance with the direction from your commission, and the design was accepted, so that condition of approval has been met for the project.
Okay. Carolyn, do you have any other questions on that topic?
Perfect. That's all I want to know.
Annie, do we have a approximate date on when they will be installed?
I'm not sure. I can check that and either report back to your commission later today or at our next meeting.
I just think it'd be nice if anyone wanted to go by and actually read them and look at them and see how they look.
Absolutely. If I could respond to that, Vanessa has promised to keep me in the loop as the connect because of the subcommittee. The building it'll probably be at least 18 months from now
Okay,
that the site is developed. But Mid-Penn plans on keeping the commission advised, and I believe actually that the commissioners will be invited to a small ceremony of unveiling the panels and all that when it occurs. It's very important to Mid-Penn to have a really sweet, inclusive protocol for these panels and sharing them with the community. So I believe that we'll be kept fully informed, and maybe we'll all meet there and have a laugh together. Who knows?
that sounds good. Thank you, and definitely I look forward to hearing on when that will be.
Yeah, and they were great to work with. I will tell you, Mid-Penn came through 100%, timely and thorough.
Thank you. Is there any other comments under ex parte? Then we will on to agenda number 5. This is public communication. Members may speak on any items not on the agenda. So the meeting moderator will be bringing you in. You will be unmuted by the meeting moderator and prompted to speak. We are following the 3-minute rule for each agenda item. So are there any public comment?
And for our guest, if you do have a comment, you would need to click on the hand symbol at the top of your computer, or if you're calling in by phone, you would need to press *5.
And just to clarify, you will need to unmute yourself as well. I cannot unmute you. So if you want to provide a comment, raise your hand, and I'll choose you, and you can unmute yourself. So we only have, it seems like, one attendee right now, Melissa Hartman. If you have any comments, let us know. And I do not see any hand being raised, so.
All right. Well, then we'll move on to agenda item number 6. There are no public hearing items at this meeting. So number 7, new business A.
Excuse me.
Chair,
Oh yeah. No, go right ahead, please. Sorry.
elect chair and vice chair to serve for our next term, which is from April 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2022. And I will open this for commission discussion. So I'm going to call on each of you individually, and then for any comments, and then we can have more discussion if you want. So Alberta, do you have any nominations?
No nominations. I like people that are there. What?
I said, do you have any comments on
Vice chair?
who you would like to nominate for chair or vice chair, or if you would like to participate as one or the other?
Let's go on. Let's hear from other people first.
Okay, Barry.
Well, I have been vigilant in my performance as vice chair, and I have backed you up every minute of the way, Linda. And it's been a really tough job, but I hope I've been thorough enough. So,
I definitely appreciate your support.
Good. We've had a couple of excellent conversations, and I believe that this commission runs very smoothly under your guidance. So I see my role for the past year as being vice chair as basically being available if you are not available to take up the role to manage a meeting or something like that. Other than that, it seems to be a fairly passive job. We each have our own responsibilities. If it would suit and serve the commission, I would be willing to repeat my role, but I'm not nominating myself. I'm just saying that I would repeat my role as vice chair. And if somebody else would like to do it, that would also be excellent.
Carolyn, Commissioner Swift.
I nominate Barry and Linda to continue as chair and vice chair.
Well, I appreciate your faith and support, and unfortunately, we are down one commissioner, so that makes our pool just a bit smaller. I certainly don't mind, and maybe next time around, Barry, you and I can switch jobs.
I'm open. I'm open to that consideration.
All right, then we now open this up for public comment.
You need a motion in a second.
Well,
If anyone has a public comment right now, you can raise your hand and unmute yourself. And if not, we can, looks like there's no one trying to provide a comment right now, so we can.
May I suggest something, please? It would seem to me, I believe that Carolyn just made a motion to nominate. And I believe that because Linda and I are the nominees, it would require Alberta to be the person who seconds it.
Okay, Alberta agrees with everybody.
okay, so Alberta, you are making the motion to elect Commissioner Phillips as chair and Commissioner Pullman as vice chair.
Correct.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Swift is second that. So we'll now vote on the motion to approve our new chair and vice chair. Commissioner Orlando?
Would you repeat that?
We're voting on the motion to approve Commissioner Phillips' chair.
I approve. And I'll apologize for asking you to repeat things because my hearing aids do not work.
No
I'm in the
problem.
process of getting new hearing aids.
Not a problem. I'm very happy to repeat anything you need. Commissioner Perlman?
Yes.
Commissioner Swift?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips? Yes. Motion for approval is passed. And next agenda item, 7B, consider adding a review of items for the following agenda as a new item on the regular HRC agenda. So this is something I asked Annie to add for us to discuss. At the end of the last meeting, I had asked Annie to go through what our agenda for the following meeting looked like, what items would be on it. And I wanted to open for discussion whether that overview should be a regular agenda item as part of our agenda. It just seemed, we mentioned so many things, and sometimes our agenda for the next meeting starts getting pretty full and we're moving things further out. And it seemed like to have as a regular overview at the end of the meeting, what is on the agenda at that point, knowing that it could very well change when we actually have our following meeting. So I want to open that up for the commission discussion on what your thoughts are.
Do we need a motion?
Well, just, do you feel that this is something that you would like to see? If you don't think we need to do this or it's superfluous, then we'll just drop the idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Barry, what do you think?
I also think it's a great idea. This takes us in the same direction that I was looking for when we had suggested at an earlier meeting to consider having the minutes come out shortly after the prior meeting. So by having this agenda, we can all be on the same page at the close of the meeting. I think it's a great idea. I support it. I will vote for it.
So Annie, looking at the agenda, where would this agenda item be placed? Because basically it's you going back to your notes that you've been taking through the meeting to summarize and of what would be on the agenda for the next meeting.
I would recommend it be added as item 11 after written communications to be at the very end of the agenda, just in case anything comes up throughout the entire meeting that the commission would want to see on the next agenda.
Sounds right to me.
Okay. So, Alberta, would you like to have a summary of our next agenda items? Do we still have Alberta?
It looks like she may have stepped away.
I left for just a second.
Okay.
I approve.
Okay, so I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the addition of reviewing agenda items for the following meeting as a regular HRC agenda item. So who do I have that will make that motion?
I will.
Okay, and who will second it?
I will.
I'm sorry, is that was
I will second it.
Alberta or Carolyn?
I believe that was Alberta.
Okay. All right, and now we'll open it up for public comments.
If you have any public comments, please raise your hand now, or if you're having trouble finding the button, you can simply unmute yourself. Does not look like we have any public comments.
Okay, so I'm bringing this back to the board for to vote. We'll now vote on the motion to approve the addition of a new regular HRC agenda item. Commissioner Orlando?
I approve.
Commissioner Perlman?
Yes.
Commissioner Swift?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips? Yes. Motion for approval is passed. Our next agenda item, 8C, that is being moved to our July meeting. So we are moving on down to agenda items under old business 8A. This is the status update on the Seabreeze Tavern. And Annie, Annie has a report with slides, and then it'll be open for the commission to discuss.
Thank you, Linda. So the purpose of the update today is to review action taken by the county since your commission was last updated in January, including the county determination that the building presents an immediate danger and that demolition is necessary to protect the public. So the Seabreeze Tavern is listed in the Santa Cruz inventory as a resource of local historic importance. The building is significant for its Spanish Revival architecture, as the last remaining building of the Rafael Castro Hotel and as the only remaining building from the Aptos Land Company that initiated the commercial development of Rio del Mar. Next slide, please. As previously reported to your commission, a catastrophic fire in June of last year severely damaged the sea breeze. Next slide. From the exterior, visible damage included walls that had been bowed due to fire damage and loose stucco. While the county remained hopeful that the building could be preserved, the extent of damage was unknown, pending review by a structural engineer. In January, the building was sold to Omar Billawala, who has since cooperated fully with the county. Prior to receiving the engineer's report in February, the county directed the owner to install scaffolding and fencing and remove loose stucco from the exterior walls to stabilize the building and protect the public. On March 9th, the property owner submitted the final report from the engineer. The report documents that the fire severely damaged the entire structure, destroying the roof and damaging the structural support in 3 of the 4 walls. Next slide, please. This is a photo of the first floor, and you can see the ceiling above and the floor of the second floor. And this shows the extent of damage to the floor joists. This has affected the load carrying capacity of the structure and weakening its stability. Next slide. Next slide, please. This is a photo on the second floor, and this shows the damage to the wall studs. This also has resulted in basically essentially no structural support remaining on the second floor. And in the following slide, you'll see that the roof is entirely gone, which means there's no lateral support for the building, so another further weakening the structure. The engineer's report concludes that the building is not structurally safe, and based upon the engineer's analysis as well as several site inspections, the county building official, Marty Heaney, made the determination that the building posed an immediate threat to the public. Due to the loss of structural integrity and potential for the building to collapse, the building official also determined that complete demolition of the structure was necessary to protect the public from danger. This decision was made only after careful consideration by the county and after it was determined that measures to stabilize and preserve the structure or to retain portions of the structure were not possible due to safety concerns. Therefore, the county issued a demolition permit for the structure as an emergency action. Next slide. Recognizing that the county has a duty to protect the public, the county code provides an exception to the provisions in Chapter 1642, which is the historic preservation chapter, where necessary to correct a dangerous condition. Actions under this section are limited to those actions necessary to protect the public from an immediate threat. Next slide. As the demolition of the sea breeze was approved by the county as an emergency action, the public hearing process normally required for demolition of a historic structure no longer applies. However, other requirements in the Santa Cruz County Code for demolition of a historic resource continue to apply to the extent that these measures can be implemented in a safe manner. As noted in the staff report, requirements for a special inspections report from the planning department have been met, and also the engineer's report documents that the demolition is necessary to correct an immediate threat to the public and alleviate a dangerous condition. Due to the dangerous condition of the building, it is not possible to allow the public to access the site to salvage building materials. that would normally be required for demolition that is not a dangerous building. Documentation requirements in the county code for demolition of historic resource do apply to this site and will be required to be submitted by the property owner. Next slide. Through documentation, future generations can understand and appreciate the significance of this building and of Rafael Castro in the commercial development of Rio Del Mar. As documentation, staff will require the property owner to work with a historic resources consultant to create an interpretive panel that would be placed in a public location with photos and text documenting the significance of the Castro family in the development of Rio Del Mar, and also review how the Spanish Revival building contributed to the character of this beachside community and the commercial development of Rio Del Mar. The applicant would also be required to provide additional research to supplement the research provided in the DPR form, which was included in your packet. The design for this panel will be brought to your commission for review and approval. Next slide, please. Staff believes that with the pending demolition of the structure, the site no longer retains criteria for designation as a historic resource. Therefore, staff will bring an application to your commission at a later date to consider removing the property from the county inventory. This application would require review and recommendation by your commission with final action by the Board of Supervisors. To support the documentation of historic resources that have been lost and subsequently removed from the inventory, staff is considering adding an appendix to the inventory so that the significance of these resources, represented to the county continues to be formally recognized and documented. This proposal can be discussed with your commission as a future agenda item. So today, staff is interested in your comments your commission may have regarding appropriate documentation for this property. Thank you. Oh, and I also wanted to mention we do have the building official with us today, Martin Heaney, who's taken time out of his very busy schedule to be available to answer any questions that your commission or the public may have.
That's a very thorough report. Thank you, Annie.
You're welcome.
Carolyn, do you have any comments?
You know, I have so many comments that I can't put them together very well. I'm curious as to what historic preservation requirements are left in relation to this building. It sounds like they've all been conveniently eliminated.
So there have not been requirements eliminated. So the county, as an emergency action, approved the demolition. So since the county has already approved that action as an emergency action, the public hearing requirement no longer applies to approve the demolition. So all the other requirements do apply as long as they can be done in a safe manner. So the only one that is a public safety concern that would not apply is the normal requirement where the county advertises, or the applicant is required to advertise that the building is available for salvage or removal for 30 days. And because of the safety concern of people accessing the site, and also the concern about delaying the demolition to allow for that to happen, that would not apply because of safety concerns. But all the other requirements that normally apply for demolition do apply. So, I did review those in the staff report. The documentation, to preserve the historic value, that does apply, and that'll be coming to your commission. The special inspections report to determine the condition of the building. That was completed by the building official as well as the engineer to document that the building is dangerous. And that report from the engineer also documented that the building official made that determination that that demolition was necessary to correct a dangerous condition. So aside from the public hearing requirement, all the code requirements do apply.
So what's left is kind of this consolation prize of an interpretive panel.
Yes, I mean, it's very unfortunate that this building was lost in the county. It took some time to go through that determination because the county, this is sort of the last possible choice would be to demolish the building. Because until we're able to get an engineer in there, it was hard to know the extent of the damage. But unfortunately, in this case, there wasn't enough stability remaining in the structure to be able to retain the structure or to consider partial demolition.
Well, I'm just what it feels like from where I'm reading the material and hearing what you're saying is that this looks like a kind of a coordinated plan to avoid and circumvent historic preservation requirements related to this building. And it reduces the role of the commission kind of to being bobbleheads. I mean, all we can do is sort of nod our heads up and down and go, wow, that's too bad. There's nothing we can do to actually think about preserving this historic structure. So that's one side of my thinking. The other side is that if you look at this picture, this is a good picture to have. Years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I submitted a list to the HRC of buildings in Aptos that needed to have their DPRs reviewed, and because of inaccuracies and because they're incomplete. And this was one of them, because as far as I can tell, I came across the name Hotel Rafael Castro only once in relation to Real Del Mar, and that was on a very early map. So I think there's some inaccuracies in the current DPR, so it should be updated or something. And also, if you look at this picture, you see that the building was has been before the fire renovated, changed so that most of its character-defining features are obliterated. So whether or not the structure was ever significantly of historic significance hasn't accurately been determined. So I'm conflicted because, you know, I don't like the way this is sort of happening, and yet I also feel like the structure might not be historic. So my question is, there has been no discussion of reconstruction, which is an option, because you can do rehabilitation, restoration, or reconstruction of historic structures, and no one seems to think that reconstruction is applicable.
Yes, I don't. There isn't really a basis in the code to require the applicant to, you know, reconstruct the building, and essentially reconstruction is, you know, a faithful reproduction of the building at a certain point in time. So
it would be a beautiful structure if it was reconstructed to look like this.
Yeah, we don't really have a basis in the code to, you know, require that. And in terms of sidestepping the commission, that is certainly not the intent, or certainly how I see it happening, because I mean, there is that exception in the code because the county has to be able to take action to protect the public if there's a danger. So there is that exception, like if there is something that's dangerous, then the county needs to take action to protect the public. So the determination that the building needs to be demolished, the county did make that determination rather than the normal public hearing through the commission, but all the other processes do apply. So I am interested in comments from your commission and comments on the documentation. So the remaining conditions that still need to be met, which is the documentation, the commission will have the review and approval of that. So in terms of the conditions, the criteria that still need to be met, the commission will be involved with that. So,
but it doesn't look like it's any more than an interpretive panel.
Well, I mean, that can be, it's open for discussion among the commission. I did think it would be appropriate because I agree with you that the DPR form, it's very limited information. So it did seem appropriate to have the property owner work with a consultant to update and provide, more detailed and accurate information on that form and any other, any other recommendations that your commission has regarding documentation. Now would be appropriate time to make them, and this will be coming to your commission for approval. So guidance from your commission now would be helpful in that regard.
So when did this building burn?
It was in June of last year. I don't know if I have the exact date in front of me.
29.
June of 2020.
June of 2020.
And I have some comments I'd like to add on this matter of when it occurred.
Okay, but I'm June of 2020 is like it's not even a year. It's not even a year.
Right. You're right, Carolyn.
County, I'm just saying from my point of view, it looks like the building burned. It sat there for a long time. Nothing happened until a new owner came along, and then when it appears that there was some kind of plan in place for consecutive actions to occur, and that's when they then took the roof off and said, "Oh, the roof came off, so it's no longer structurally sound." It just this is what I got from reading the report. I mean, that's how it looked.
Okay, yeah. Let me clarify then, because what happened was the previous owner, it was like a land holding company. So we had it took some time to actually reach them and contact them, and they honestly were not cooperating with the county to the fullest extent. The roof actually was destroyed in the fire, so that was already gone. And we had directed the previous owner, to clear out the debris from the building and hire an engineer to do the structural evaluation from the interior. And they started with the debris removal, and then they just stopped cooperating. They stopped. So we sent them registered letters like, you're required to do this, but there's only so much we can do to force an owner to do the correct thing. So then they did sell to a new owner, Omar Billawala, and that happened in January. And since the new owner purchased it, he has been cooperative, and he did finally get the engineer out to evaluate the building. And that's when the building official was able to understand the full extent of the damage and make the determination that the building was a danger to the public. So that's the reason for the delay, basically, is the previous owner was not taking the actions that were required for us to be able, the county to be able to evaluate the building and the building official to evaluate it.
Now there's this urgency that we must take this building down because it's a hazard. It's a safety hazard. And yet we had a meeting in January, and the building inspector spoke to us and said, we don't know what the damage is. And there was no concern for public safety. So it's a little confusing to suddenly hear, it's a danger, we have to take it down right away. It's 6 months ago when we met, it didn't sound like that.
Yes, it was difficult to understand the full extent from the exterior. So I don't know if Marty, if you want to add any comments to that, but until we had the engineer's report, it did appear that the damage was not as extensive as the county was made aware when the engineer was able to get into the interior and evaluate the structure. Prior to removing the debris, the structure was so full of fire debris from the roof collapsing that you couldn't even get inside the building to evaluate it. So it was difficult to know the extent of damage until we finally got that engineer's report. But Marty, if you have anything to add.
I would say, what you're saying about the building being full, it was also full of contents of just things that were being stored in the back rooms of this place, behind where the bar was. We could hardly walk through it, never mind evaluate it, with all the stuff in the way. And I'm not a structural engineer, so I ordered a structural engineer's report be given to us, and we have always taken the danger of this seriously, and especially as we watch the building visibly deteriorate. And fortunately, we were able to get a cooperative owner out there who gave me the information I required to make this evaluation. This was not done to, we did not take this decision lightly. We've tried, we've entertained reconstruction, shoring up, things like that, but the engineer just said, he would not be responsible for that type of work because because of the danger. And at that point, that's why we went the direction we went.
Well, the Brister Mansion in Capitola burned in a similar way, and they were able to shore it up.
Well, I've been waiting to make some comments. So would this be a good time?
I would like to make a comment when he's done.
I'll shut up.
Oh, no. Please
No.
complete your thought, because I'm going to come right in behind you on that.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So of you commissioners, you are all more experienced with many more years of serving our commission than I have. My experience of many years happens to be largely in the hospitality business. And I moved to Santa Cruz 35 years ago to become the general manager of the Shadowbrook restaurant. And I completed my career at Stanford University as the director of the faculty club. I can say to all of you that has not been mentioned here at all, there was a malfunctioning, if not non-functioning, commercial property in the hottest possible location. This is a multi-million-dollar money earner each year in terms of possible revenue, not in that old building. And I'm making no accusations at all, but I can tell you that there is a pattern in the hospitality industry of, it's funny how bad buildings burn down so a new building can replace it that will be infinitely more efficient and will yield a direct financial return. And honestly, during the pandemic, when that bar had to be closed and nobody was making any money and they were just paying whatever they were paying, property taxes and maybe some expenses, somehow it doesn't surprise me that there was a fire. And I'm making no accusations towards anyone or anything, but we all are aware that Santa Cruz commercial real estate is perhaps the most expensive in the state of California right now. If any of you are in the market for buying property, I am right now. And oh boy, we're 30% higher than Sonoma at this point. So I just would point out that I perceive that this building was not tended to because the purpose was for this building to become eliminated. And the old guys couldn't get it eliminated. To me, the key thing to hear was that the previous landlord was a land holding company, yeah, that would be the purpose of buying it, strictly as an investment, dollars and cents. And that's not what this commission's about. This commission's about, whoa, it's not dollars and cents. It's historic values here. So I don't know how I guess there's no liability on the prior owners, although there should be. And on the current owner, I do understand that he's cooperative. That's great. But who pays for this demolition and who pays for the historic panel when, if the building had been maintained, neither would be required?
I can respond to that question, Barry, in terms of the owner would be responsible for all costs associated. So they'd be responsible for the demolition. And when they submit the application to develop the property, they would be required to submit the documentation plan that would be reviewed and approved by your commission. And they would also be required to pay for the installation. So that would be all borne by the property owner.
So this lot, the location of this property, because it was a historic building, this lot remains under the purview of the Historic Resource Commission?
Yes, it does. As I mentioned, since the building will be gone soon, I don't think it's appropriate to remain on the inventory, but until it's removed, it is still in our
It's a
inventory.
matter of
Yes.
okay. So once it is demolished, then somebody applies to remove it from inventory, and our commission removes it from inventory, and then it's out of our way, and somebody goes and makes millions of dollars serving cocktails on the beach. I get it. Okay. That's how business has to be done. I understand, but what a great way to get around all historic commitments. Have a fire, the building burns, it gets demolished, it gets taken out of the inventory, and then, as I say, an efficient building replaces it at the beach.
Yeah,
So
although
there's a sadness to that.
yeah, it's very sad to lose a building. I don't. The previous owner who bought it, the fire occurred shortly after they purchased it, and then they ended up selling the property. So I honestly think it was more of a headache for them rather than an intentional, somehow action that caused a fire. So, but who knows what happened? But it is still on the inventory, and I do think that it's very unfortunate that the building has been lost. I do think that having a thorough documentation of the building will help to preserve the historic values, and that I hope that your commission can provide some guidance for that. I did have suggestions of providing interpretive panel and updating the DPR, but if your commission has other recommendations, now would be a good time to provide that as well, so that we can work with the applicant to ensure that the documentation will meet the intention of your commission.
I have a question. You mentioned that the building had burned down in June, and we would have had a meeting in July, which this would have been on, and we would have been notified about what happened. And I know we asked very early on what was the cause of the fire, and because it was still so early and that the fire inspector had not been able to get in there and analysis and the determination to be done. And I don't think that we've ever found out what the cause was. So has that been determined yet? Or is that still being investigated and analyzed?
That is a good question. And Marty, do you happen to know if they determined the cause of the fire?
I don't know that. The last time I talked to the fire marshal, Mike DeMars, he said that they had not determined, but that was probably in July of last year when I spoke to Mike about the cause of the fire. And at that point, you know, I don't base my decision on what caused the fire. It's just the condition of the building. And yeah, so you know, Mike may have more information for us.
Yes, I can certainly, we can certainly look into that, and I can report back to your commission if a
Thank you.
determination has been made.
Thank you, Andy, we would like that.
Yep.
Because that was something like, that we had questioned whether it was some mechanical failure, or, you know, if something unsavory had happened. Since the building had just been sold, the new owner was, I believe, down in San Diego. It was not someone local, and the fire occurred so soon after the sale.
Right.
So we just were wanting to know.
Yes. And yeah,
So,
and I did want to add that this was sort of the last choice by the county. Like, we're certainly not, the goal was never to sidestep your commission's authority. It was a thorough evaluation and taking the time to make sure that this was actually a danger and that it needed to be demolished. So I feel it's unfortunate that the county had to take this action, and I hope that your commission is aware that we appreciate your guidance, and that I wish the outcome could have been different for this building.
Does any of the commissioners have more questions or comments?
I do, but I thought Alberta wanted to say something.
Alberta?
Well, it was a comment that Carolyn was making, and so I'll just make it quick. Up in Davenport, we had the same situation of an old building, historically old building, and it finally was rebuilt. And the rebuilding, I thought, was a disaster. And so I was going to say something about, if you wanted to rebuild, you'd better make sure that you follow the architect and see what he's saying that should be the way it is, because there's no telling what they'll do to it if they rebuild, even if they're saying that it was historical. Because in Davenport, when they finally finished with the building, it did not resemble the old building at any point. Well, maybe one point, the steps up to the entry, but that was about it.
Thank you, Alberta.
Okay.
Now, can I speak again?
Yes. You have the floor.
Thank you. I just, I have a hard time with this because, I agree with Barry. We can kind of, we're really not bobbleheads, and, we've been on the commission. I've been on the commission for a long, long time, and it's not the first time that this has happened. And we all know, and people said when this building burned, oh, this is what's going to happen. This will happen, this will happen, this will happen, and this will be the result. And what do you know? That's what happened. It's just frustrating that, we seem to have so little input on the fate of the historic structure when the legal, from every workshop I've gone to, has said that you can't justify wiping out a historic structure because it'll make millions of dollars. This building is sitting on a historic site, which probably should never have been developed because it was a swamp, and it wants to return to being a swamp if you ever look at it every winter. But and there are all kinds of problems that await for future development because of the rising seas and the fact that it's in the coastal commission. So it's going to be an interesting development that follows this. Our concern can only be a historic structure. And here's one that we can't do a thing to preserve any little piece of. And then we're told, oh boy, looky, you get an interpretive panel, another interpretive panel. It gets to be kind of, what they say, you can't, drawing a line around the body doesn't mitigate a murder.
Davenport didn't even get an interpretive panel.
Well, Davenport doesn't matter.
I know, it doesn't count.
I'm done ranting.
I would like
Yeah.
to say a couple things, if I might. Let me, for one thing, address interpretive panels. Being that I am our resident panel person at the moment, what I thought was so amusing and funny about the Merriman panels has to do with the following. In an earlier incarnation of the current issue of Rail Trail versus Trail Now, we had something in Santa Cruz County called the Sanctuary Scenic Trail. And that project was run out of the CAO's office. And the idea was to have a recreational trail that went from Davenport and connected up with Monterey County. And to that end, they began a signage program with, believe it or not, permanent panels. And those panels were expensive. They were beautifully designed. And they exist right now. Any of you can go take a look at them. They start at the northern tip at up by the bridges at the north end of town on the west side at Natural Bridges. And then the second one is at Lighthouse Field. And the third one is at the boardwalk. And the fourth one is on the promenade of the yacht harbor. And the fifth one's at 26th Avenue Beach. And they go all the way. That might be the last one. There may be another. Well, what's happened, those panels were put in about 15 years ago, and they've never been maintained by the county. And at this point, the structure is there, and they are faded and almost unreadable. And actually, they're at the point right now where the interpretive panels are becoming a nuisance and an ugliness where they were an enhancement and a beauty, because they need permanent and ongoing funding and maintenance. So that's Barry's report on panels for all of you. The next part I'd like to say is this. I have never seen this photograph before of this beautiful, intact old building. And to me, I would like to not see our commission let go of this property and remove it from inventory until the new building is built. I don't know whether that's doable, because I would like to see us insist on an element that reflected the history. Clearly, we can't make them build a historical building, but you know what? A miniature of this very photograph could be manifest as a physical presence, so to speak, a statue of the old building in miniature at the corner of the new building. And if we could hold on to it in our inventory and require that something that honored the original building was included, well, then we wouldn't be bobbleheads, would we? We'd be really influencing the long-term history of Rio Del Mar.
Barry, I really that we should, I should stop ranting and look at alternatives. And when we did the interpretive panels for Aptos, the Apple Barn, some of them were outside, and I think they're already fading. Some of it is inside, and I think just because I go there now and shop, I think the inside information is even more appreciated than the outside. So, I mean, maybe we can encourage the Board of Supervisors or encourage the new owner and developers to maybe put some of the elements of the old structure in their new design, whatever it is they're designing.
I'd sure support that. I sure would.
To maybe have a space inside where there could be a display about Real Del Mar. This building was never really important to the development of Real Del Mar. It was never successful as anything. But across the street, there was a bathhouse, and up on the hill, it burned, was the hotel, Real Del Mar Inn. And other really beautiful buildings like this one were in the area and now are becoming rare and fewer and fewer. So to have some kind of, interpretive something that was not sitting out in the sun and going to be subject to graffiti, but sitting inside the new building. And, I don't know if that's negotiable or not, but it's a start.
Yeah, so I think there's two sort of discussions here. One is about documentation, and we certainly could require that they put a display inside. It could be inside as well as outside. We can, include in the conditions that they're required to maintain the signage on the exterior, but I guess the advantage of having it outside is that it's more publicly accessible, but they could certainly provide inside. And I think Barry's point in terms of whether we can require that the design in some way honor the historic building. There has to be a code nexus for us to be able to do that, but let me look into that and report back to your commission, and we can discuss this at the next meeting because it will be some time before they come in for a development application. So let me look into that and see if there is a way that your commission can be involved in the design in that way and report back.
Boy, that'd be great.
That sounds terrific. I'd like to make a last comment, and that is that the more pressure and influence that our commission can apply in this situation will be a very strong statement towards the potential of future buildings being torn down with people thinking that they have license to do whatever they want, get rid of the historical building. So our influence on the future of this building may set a precedent that I think would really support the strength of the commission.
Yes, and I did want to, maybe I didn't make it clear, but the normal process for demolition of a historic building is it requires review and approval by your commission. This was an exceptional condition, and where it was determined that the building was an immediate danger to the public. So this process is not the normal process, and it's only made when there's an immediate danger that needs to be addressed. So
Thank you for that. Yes.
But if I could say one last thing. Barry brings up a point that I think is really sticking with me, is that over the years, I've seen the commission have less and less influence, and it's easier and easier for people to get around requirements of historic preservation. It's due to the worth of property. I mean, people spend a gazillion dollars on a little piece of property with an old house on it, and there's this problem of how to retain the history and allow people to develop property in a way that will make them lots of money. So weakening the Historic Preservation Commission and what we do, and I have seen it happen all over everywhere. It doesn't feel good if you're on the commission to be sort of dismissed, overlooked, walked around, and we need to take a stronger stand in some way, and I don't know how we can increase our voice beyond starting to shout. And I'm grateful, Annie, that you're working with us because you're so reasonable. It's just that it does get frustrating from my point of view. And that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Annie. Any last comments before we open it up for public comments? All right, then, since this action item has no motion is required at this time. I'm going to open it up for public comments.
If you have a public comment, please raise your hand now or unmute yourself to provide a comment. We'll give you a moment. Does not look like there's public comment.
All right, then I bring this back to the commission. So moving on to agenda item 8B, review of our watch list.
Excuse me, Linda?
New properties.
I'm sorry, Linda, can I just go back to the previous item for a moment?
Yes, is there a motion we need to make?
Well, I just wanted to be clear, so I'll report back to your commission at the next meeting regarding whether the commission can be involved in the design of the structure moving forward, and we can discuss in more detail documentation. I would like to be clear if your commission has other guidance regarding where a display should be located or what information should be included in the updated DPR. So perhaps we can discuss that in more detail at the next meeting.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're on this one. We're going to stay on this one. I have a feeling that our commission is going to do a good job on this one.
I have no doubt.
Okay, so AP, the watch list. Annie has some comments with the photo.
Yeah, so I what I provided to your commission in the packets was the list of properties currently on the watch list. That was primarily for your reference. It may not have been clear in the packet, so I just wanted to clarify what we're actually discussing today is Carolyn, starting on page 11 of the packet, and we have slides that show that as well, but Carolyn is proposing a new property to be added to the watch list, the Bruce Zobel House in Watsonville. And these are the designation criteria just for your commission's reference. And I do have the photos that she provided in the next couple of slides, and I will just, because Barry may not be familiar, the watch list identifies properties that, in the opinion of your commission, may meet one or more criteria for designation as a historic resource and should be further evaluated. And these watch list properties are identified in the county permitting system. Any discretionary application proposing to alter structures on the watch list requires further evaluation under the California Environmental Quality Act, and a historic survey of the property is required to be submitted with applications. So this is a way that we can monitor these properties. And with that, I will turn it back over to the commission.
Well, on this Zobel property, which is in my district, Carolyn had advised me to look into it at our last meeting, and just in the particular time that's gone by, I did not accomplish that. However, I do have a meeting upcoming this Thursday with Lou at Pajaro Valley Historical Association, and I was going to try to get any information that I could prior to receiving this packet, which is very helpful. And thank you, Carolyn. This, I mean, it seems to me kind of like a no-brainer. It looks like this property would qualify, and certainly it's lovely that we had Dr. Zobel living here, a great contributor, and let's go from here. I'll follow somebody else's lead.
And Natisha, would you mind bringing up the next slide? I do have a photo of the house for everyone. And the next slide is probably a better one. There we go.
Yeah. Now, is this like up off of Carlton? Do I understand that right? It's near the Cooley
Yeah.
properties.
Diane owns the house.
That wouldn't surprise me one bit.
It's very well cared for.
Diane has given me a tour of the Circle P, and the degree of restoration, including the glass that she's brought in for the windows, is it's dandy. It's exquisite in my opinion. So if she's put any similar effort into, the Zobel house would be just beautiful. And I believe that the Porter Cooley family has very cooperative feelings towards historic preservation. So should be maybe an easy thing to do this. And that's a question. Yes,
yes, it just requires a motion by your commission, and we can make it happen.
Wow,
So
great.
is there any other comments from Commissioner Orlando?
No.
Okay. So are there any other properties that we want to discuss at this time to be put on the watch list? Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the addition of 204 Thompson Road in Salinas to the HRC inventory watch list?
Well, in Salinas, you said Salinas.
No, Watsonville. Did
Okay.
I say Salinas?
Yes.
Watsonville.
Okay.
Watsonville, yes. I'll move that we add this to the watch.
Okay, so do I have a second on the motion?
Yes. I shall second.
Okay,
And
so I have a motion. I'll now open this up for public comments. Do we have any public comments? Please raise your hand.
It looks like there are no longer any members of the public attending the meeting.
Okay. Then I bring this back and we will now vote on the motion to approve this property to the HRC inventory watch list. Commissioner Orlando?
Yes.
Commissioner Perlman?
Yes.
Commissioner Swift?
yes,
Commissioner Phillips? Yes. The motion for approval has passed.
Barry, maybe you could tell Diane if you see her that we've done this.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I shall directly do such. I mean, I don't want to suggest that she and I are close buddies and have lunch once a week, but I can easily get to her, and I think that she would feel gratified by this. It seems like we're all working together.
Yeah, and it really, there's no, it doesn't, well, the house is on the list, but it's not like that she has to jump through any hoops or anything. So
Right, exactly right. And I don't see any particular expense attached to it for her, or or negatives. No.
it only means if somebody planned to change the building in a way that destroyed its character defining features, that there would be some discussion about it.
Exactly right.
Yes, if someone applied to alter the exterior of the building, in any way, then we would require, as part of the application, we require them to provide a historic evaluation of the property. Yeah, it'd be interesting if you do talk to the owner, if you're able to get like better photos of the house. It looks like they're probably taken from a distance, but that might be nice to include in the watch list. Have
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to trespass.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, but now that we're doing this, if Barry or whoever is in touch with the owner, or it might be helpful.
The time is 11. I wanted to ask my commissioners, would you like to take a 10-minute break, or do you want to continue with the meeting?
10-minute break would be fine.
Okay. Then I'm going to call a recess, a break at 11 o'clock, with us coming back and restarting the meeting at 11:10.
Great.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. See you all
Meeting
then.
on break.
I got a 10-minute break. Oh, it was very nice. I went to 2 parties. Yes, in the morning, we were invited to a very cozy little breakfast. And so we went to the brunch. And so we made it to the house that went very well, very well system. And it was interesting because they were the well system, was very well that way. It was taking to the same houses. And then we got to discussing the lake, and the woman was one of the real estate agents, this topic that I totally discussed, and she got a really good. And but anyway, then we do it, and we got discussing both of our families. And her family was really, really, really interested. And she has hired a lawyer to get information. And she had to go clear to Poland to get it. And she got Polish lawyers to do the research for her. And her family came in 1930. Poland. And so it was the next year. So is starting to work on it. We've been taking it for a week. It takes a long time to move it around. Okay, so I don't know if you can hear about your news today. We're gonna have to do some stopping until going to safely now that I'm alone anyway. So we'll probably figure that one out on stay Wednesday. The I think the one salad is the one that what do you call it? Black spice in it. And the other one is I think it's a salad for two. It's in a square container. And so it's where the square container. And I would like a roast beef and now we have that and just have the door and get
Oh God.
Is everyone back?
Yep.
I'm back and I'd like to make a comment on the previous conversation.
Can you hang on? We're not adjourned.
You're not
yet.
ready yet? Okay.
Make sure Carolyn's here.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. So we have Carolyn, Barry, and Alberta. All right. I call the meeting back to order. And Commissioner Alberta had some comments on our previous discussion.
Well, it's not exactly there, but as listening to what you people were saying and agreeing with all of it, I thought that maybe we should put some things on a watch list up in Davenport because so many buildings are deteriorating very fast up there.
Okay, well, we have a format, and if you can fill those out and send it to Annie.
Okay.
And
And,
Alberta,
Yes.
Alberta, I can send you that blank template just so you'll have it right there. I can email that to you.
Oh, good, good. All right.
Okay, so our next agenda item, number 8C, consider awarding certificate of appreciation to a historically designated property in the county to recognize outstanding historic preservation efforts. And I just wanted to briefly go over, because I'm not sure, Barry, a few years back, this is history of
Sure.
this action item, agenda item. We wanted to participate with the Landmark Awards Committee that hand out the blue plaques, and the Santa Cruz City Preservation Association also does recognition efforts during the same ceremony. And we asked if we could participate and include our certificates of appreciation, and we've been doing that for a few years. So what we do is we have our own slides and photographs. We work with Annie to put it together so we can explain why this property is on our inventory, why it's worth preserving, and then we hand the certificate to the owner and anyone else, i.e. an architect or builder, that they want to acknowledge as participating in efforts. So the ceremony is held on the first Saturday in May as part of, I think it's Historical Preservation Month. So what we're doing now is, though this will not be a in-person type of ceremony held at the Museum of Art and History, they are going to be doing a virtual recognition. So we're going to select some properties that we think should be recognized. So,
yes,
Annie?
oh, I just wanted to add to that. The Museum of Art and History this year, they are not themselves awarding the certificate of appreciation, but they said they could announce any awards that the county made on their website. So so that's a way where we can continue to participate and make these awards. So the award would be from your commission basically to the property owner.
So one of the properties that we've been talking about for a while that wanted to wait till it was completed is the Heen Apple Barn. So I'd like to open up discussion on that property, and does the commission feel that they want to recognize their effort, and is this the year to do it?
Yes, and then is the commission able to see the screen of the 355 Corralitos Road right now?
Not right now.
Oh,
It was up before.
okay. Natisha, would you mind taking that over for me?
I can see it.
Oh,
I can see it, or I could see it once upon a time.
I'm now looking at Linda.
okay. Yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
There
Okay.
it is.
All right. Thank you. So, yes. So there's this property as well. I do have a photo of the Heen Apple Packing Warehouse as well. So there are basically two candidates that I'm aware of. This is from Carolyn, and the commission can choose to present one or two or none. So, but those are a couple of options. Or if people have other properties they want to consider, that's also an option. So,
I just happen to think there's another one, and we have a picture of it in our packet. It's a house on the watch list at 201 Playa Boulevard, Los Alba Beach.
Yeah.
It was the house that belonged to the developer of Rob Roy, which was Salva. And right after we put it on the watch list, it was demolished and rebuilt. And it looks very similar. I mean, it was really reconstructed. So it looks pretty good. And I thought maybe we could acknowledge them for reconstructing. Historic resource.
Yeah, that's an idea. I mean, it's not that property is a little bit different in that it's not actually on the inventory, so it's not designated. But I guess that wouldn't necessarily prevent your commission from awarding a certificate.
Well, it should have been. I mean, it's one of those things that if we could have put it on a list, it would have been on a list.
Right.
And it wasn't on a list, but they did the right thing.
Yeah.
They did a good thing. So
yeah, sure. Yeah.
Let's take the properties one by one. How does commissioners feel about the Heen Apple Barn in presenting them or presenting a certificate of appreciation and this year, or hold off till we can do it in person? How do you feel about that? And there it is.
So who would we be presenting the award to?
Annie, because this is Barry Swenson Builders, but we never actually dealt with Mr. Swenson. Who would you be sending this certificate to?
Right, that's a good question. Let's see. We could certainly send it to the owners. There were several architects involved. We could send it to the owners and acknowledge, people who were involved in the reconstruction. That might be one way to do it.
Acknowledging the crew that managed what was that moving company?
Oh, right. Yes, definitely. That would, right. I'm drawing a blank, but that was right. That was quite the process of moving the building.
I can't remember their names now,
yeah,
but
right.
Because it was quite an achievement, and it's really beautiful on the inside. I was
yeah, and there's obviously a huge addition that was added onto the building, but the exterior of the building is essentially preserved as it looked, from the original, aside from like adding the grocery store doors. But they're actually, in terms of the building itself, the openings are still there and the same wood is there, so that the materials on the exterior were definitely preserved as well. So
if I may ask a question or two, when I imagine that the commission was involved in approving the moving of the barn.
yes.
Yeah, okay. Would need to be. I understand that.
Right.
So were the founders of New Leaf engaged with the project at that time, or was the new company who owns New Leaf involved in that project? Did it start with Scott Roseman?
No.
They were gone
I
already.
don't think so. I think it was later. We dealt with Barry Swinson.
Yeah, the
representatives were the ones that came to the meetings.
right. Yeah, the grocery store owners became involved later when they actually were designing the interior of the building, and then they became involved in terms of how the remodel of the interior would take place.
So when I asked the question of who is it that we're honoring, it would seem to me as though we might want to honor people on two levels, or maybe three. I love the idea of honoring the crew that moved the barn. That's core material. But if the local founder of New Leaf was involved at the beginning, it would be nice to pull him in and give him some acknowledgement too, as well as the architects and everyone else. If it was the new company, the corporation from wherever they are, Seattle or wherever, that owns New Leaf at this time, well, then if they were the initializers, then I guess the thanks goes to them.
Yeah, I believe that when it had already been sold to New Leaf. Like, I don't think New Leaf Market itself was involved. I think they were, I think they expressed an interest early on to locate in this building, but I don't think they were directly involved in terms of the remodeling process.
So the moving of the building was part of the Aptos project, and they later became the tenant.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. That helps my understanding of it, because I wasn't around for it.
Right. But I could certainly, if the commission decides that they want to award, I could certainly try and pull together all the people that I can think of that were, direct. Like there was the Maya Gendro with Bonnie Bamberg's firm, and Maya was more directly involved in like creating the documents that showed how the building was constructed, and so there were a lot of people, I think, that we could certainly, it was a big team effort to make this happen. So I could certainly try and pull together.
So I think my next question is a very appropriate and timely. With the amount of work that needs to be done, and with the deadline for presenting the award, sounds like it is 3 to 4 weeks away. Can we accomplish what we suggest, or should we defer the hin for one more year so that we line up all the people in a timely way and don't leave anybody out?
it gets, when you start trying to hit everybody, it's sort of like inviting people to a party. You risk leaving out someone or forgetting someone. So
Sure.
I would recommend just keeping it simple. I mean, basically, this is a piece of paper that says, you know, that this is worthy of recognition, and you know, send it to Barry Swenson Builder. I mean, that's who was responsible for all of this. So just do something simple.
Yeah, and we could certainly kind of in the certificate, I mean, we could certainly acknowledge the steps that went through, you know, relocating the building and, you know, certainly that could be one way to do it without trying to name everybody.
Right, exactly.
That seems effective, and I would support Carolyn's direction on that.
Okay. Alberta, do you have any
Well,
comments?
I was going to remark, but don't forget Barry Swinson. I worked with him a little bit, and I was the most impressed with him and his crew.
Well,
This, just for Barry's information, this was a project that went on for, I don't know, what do you say, Annie, 7 years they were coming to the commission?
oh, it went on for a whole lot longer than we knew.
Yes, it's been a very long sort of process in the county in terms of the Aptos Village project.
Oh, indeed. I think
Yeah.
we all have little bits of information, and some of us have a lot of information about that. I heard about it through my wife's involvement in the CAO's office over the many years. So it was a very comprehensive project. And yeah, great.
It was very bitter, very bitter fighting over it. And
I believe I still feel some of the resentment of that cross the path of our commission from time to time.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. And if am I appropriate in saying that?
Yes,
Okay.
and we only were involved with the apple barn, not with any of the other pieces of this project. And I came in the middle of it. So it was going on for a while before I came on the board. So it's been a long time.
And
All right, and the second property we were looking at was the 355 Corralitos Road. And so what was done to this property for a certificate?
So this was a what's considered a minor alteration that was done at, you know, reviewed at staff level, and it was primarily like a restoration of the existing materials. They did replace a few windows, but they were done, you know, with matching wood windows in a way that complemented the building. So I would say, you know, as Carolyn mentioned earlier, there's different types of preservation treatments, and I would say this was like a preservation where it's not even a rehabilitation. It's like a strict sort of preservation approach where they're preserving the existing materials and not changing the footprint. So I think it's, you know, is a nice recognition of that preservation effort to really retain the materials and the character and the, you know, the building as is. They did do some
maintenance of the property.
Yeah, preservation, you know, restoration and preservation of a, you know, a historically significant building, and, you know, careful, you know, quality work and materials. And I mean, your commission,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say your commission, you know, usually someone volunteers to write the certificate. So you could say, you know, whatever you think is significant. I think to me it is significant, a sort of really a careful preservation where they didn't really want to change much in the building. They really just wanted to restore its character and you know, keep it intact and in good condition for future generations. So it's nice in that way.
I was going to add that I pass by this a lot, you know, and a lot of times on my bike, and we've watched it, you know, if they worked on it in the past year or 2 years. And so you know, to me, this is sort of exactly why we're on the commission. You know, it's to, you don't see this happen very often where there's a building this building was on the survey because of its architectural features. And they said, well, this is unusual style for a rural environment. And because it's out in the middle of nowhere. And so it's been restored to look the way it used to.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you want to see.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to say. Yeah, and I met the owner out the property, and he had a story. I mean, apparently there was a woman who lived in there for years, and she was kind of a hoarder, and you couldn't get her out. So anyway, it's this long story, but now that they were finally able to get in there and restore it, I think they've done a really nice job. So
yeah, it's good.
Very interesting looking.
Mm-hmm. Oh, let me show you the other. There's another photo that shows from the other angle. There it is. Yeah. There's like a kind of a pass through under here, like a covered parking area, and then this unit in the back, like a garage with the unit above. And
no, the footprint looks very interesting. I'd love to see what the floor plan looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So, Commissioner Orlando, do you have any comments on this property?
No.
All right. Then are we ready to move to this last property? The one Carolyn brought up, 2001, Playa Boulevard. That was, she had it on for the watch list.
Yeah, I think the photo that's in the watch list was before the rehabilitation. So
that's how it looked originally. Yeah.
Yes, right.
So has this property been rebuilt? Or
Yeah.
are we putting, so what are we kind of doing with this? Has it been rebuilt? Are we putting on the watch list what it looks like now, or is it being rebuilt?
It's completely been rebuilt. And we're not putting it on the watch list because it's a new building.
Okay.
What we were thinking of is maybe just acknowledging that even though this building wasn't on the inventory, they did a really good job of reconstructing a building that we felt had historic significance.
Okay.
This was the very first structure we put on the watch list. It was on the watch list for about a month, and they tore the house down.
So if we were to approve a certificate, what would it be for?
You know, and I'm thinking now is that maybe we should wait on this one and then pick it up later when we have a photograph of the reconstructed building and you can see the two together.
Okay.
I'm leaving for just a few moments.
Pardon, Alberta?
Oh, I believe she said she had to step away for a few moments.
Okay. Well, then, I will wait because I was going to start the phone. So what we're considering then is just the two properties, the Heen Barn and the property on Corlitas Road for certificates for next month, and this will be strictly putting it on the Moz website. There will not be any virtual meeting. Is that all correct?
Yes, that's right. And then we would need someone to, I have a template that Linda's typically worked with me on these in the past. I have a template, a certificate template that we use, and then typically a commissioner would complete the language on the certificate. I can assist as well, and then we can share the announcement with the Museum of Art and History, and I think we can also post it on our website so that the public can be aware of the award. I think would be a nice thing to do.
Okay, I agree.
I agree also.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay, so Carolyn, if you wouldn't mind, I would ask you to work with Annie on the Corlitas Road certificate. And again, it's a standard one sheet, decoration around all four edges. So you just got that blank space in the middle to fill in the information.
Well, I don't really have any more information.
You're an excellent writer, though.
Well, invent something. So if you send me a call, I can do it.
Okay, yeah, I can send you one we've done in the past, just so you know there's not, and we usually do it as a, whereas kind of fancy language, but there's not a lot of room for a lot of detail, but I can send you one so you can see what we've done in the past.
Okay, that'd be perfect.
Okay.
So, and then as soon as, I can work with you on the apple barn if you want, unless somebody else would like to step up and work with Annie on the apple barn. So
That I have a problem with the apple barn still.
So we're waiting for Commissioner Orlando to come back, and then we'll do the motion to approve these two properties for certificates, and then we'll vote on that.
While we're waiting for Alvera, Carolyn, you said you still have a problem with the apple barn?
Oh, it was so contentious. It was just fighting all the way for years and years and years. Fighting to keep the apple barn where it was, fighting to ensure that the apple barn was treated properly when it was moved, fighting over the interpretive panels, fighting. It was difficult. It was a difficult process, especially for me, because I was involved in getting a lot of the history together. And so I'm really happy with the building. I love going there and going shopping.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I love the building.
Yeah, and I think it's an example of the purpose of rehabilitation is, rehabilitating a building for contemporary use. So it was sort of, I think, pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable in terms of rehabilitation. But I think it's an example of a, very complex project that came out well, even though there was like the large addition next to it. So it's, I think
it did turn out well.
Yeah.
It probably took all that fighting to get it to turn out the way.
Probably.
Yeah. Mhm. I get that.
But it was, they were able to incorporate on the inside some of the original flooring up by the cash registers.
Right.
And have the original trusses up in the top, and but because it is a grocery store, and you're dealing with sanitation and, you know, so much of the public, traffic and so on, there were things that had to be done. So we spent one whole meeting, I think, talking about the doors, whether to try to keep the original doors or try to modify so they looked original but still would be appropriate for a grocery store.
And at one point, because the new building and the old building required something different to differentiate the style, they were gonna move the old Aptos fire station in there, that little tiny building. They were gonna pick it up, move it between the two buildings.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of history there and a lot of.
Alberta, welcome
Yes.
back.
Yes.
All right, well, we're going to make a motion on this agenda item. So so I need a motion to approve a presentation of the HRC Certificate of Appreciation to the Heen Apple Barn and to the property at 355 Corralitas Road in Watsonville. Do I have someone to make that motion?
Yes. So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay. Is there any public comments? Please raise your hand.
Linda, I believe that we no longer have any members of the public at this meeting.
Okay, so I do not need to ask that anymore?
Correct.
Okay, so we will now vote on the motion to approve the presentation of a certificate of appreciation to the two named properties. Commissioner Orlando,
I have nothing to say.
do you approve the motion?
Yes, I do approve.
Commissioner Perlman,
Yes.
Commissioner Swift,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips, yes. The motion for approval is passed. Moving on to new business, agenda item 8D, a report back regarding the Redmond house. And Annie has some comments for us.
Yes, thank you. At the last meeting, your commissioners asked for an update on the property. So I did ask one of our building inspectors to visit the property. So he reported back that the building appears to be stable and is resting on the I-beams. He did not indicate that it presented a danger to the public. The building has been fenced to prevent public access to the property. I did reach out to the property owner, but have not heard back regarding his plans for the site to rehabilitate. I did inform him again as well that the county is proposing to amend the county code to allow additional uses on a historically designated site, so that this could potentially allow for a commercially viable use and support rehabilitation of a property as well. So I made him aware that we're planning to proceed with that amendment. That concludes my report back.
Is there any comments or discussion from the commissioners?
I just want to say I appreciate that. I'm glad to know that the building is still able to stand up.
Any other comments? All right, there is no motion on this agenda item. So we will move to agenda item 8E. And this is to discuss the format and approach for commission goals.
Oops.
So I put this together very quickly to be able to make the deadline for the packet mailing. So please bear with me. At our last meeting in January, after we had gone through our list of goals, Commissioner Swift had made some comments that she wondered if we were making any progress on some of them, that we seemed to just be kind of running in place and not really making progress, and wondered if we were actually completing any of our goals. And I felt the same way. So I knew, I could remember, it seemed like way in the past, we had completed a couple goals, but I couldn't tell you what they were. And so I thought they were good questions, and I kind of felt those questions needed to be addressed. So I talked to Annie and said I wanted to assign myself the action item to try and get a discussion going, put together a straw man format, and get feedback from the commission on whether I was maybe on the right track on how to provide some kind of more efficient format that we could track our goals, or whether this was just becoming too much work and just to continue the way we were. So that was the impetus in this new action item. So my objective was to track identified goals, to one, know when a new goal was added and report it, to follow the progress of staff actions when commission consensus was achieved, and to record a board vote, and to acknowledge when a goal was accomplished. So an overview of the action item was to create a format that would be easy to use, track a goal from initiation to all actions taken by either commission or staff, and reaching a final decision in collaboration that has either been completed, ongoing, or a long-term goal. So the comments for this is that for this action item, I'm willing to either, one, work this on my own and work in collaboration with Annie, since she is the one who takes the notes, and she, in my opinion, has the master of our goals, when we make motions, when we request reports, we go to her for clarification and information. So she definitely needs to be part of this process. And with a progress report given at each meeting on how this project of putting together a goal tracking format or system is going, to reach a consensus by the board for what would be the next step, or a creation of a subcommittee that would continue to work on this, again, in collaboration with Annie. My expectation is that this project, this action item, would go over several meetings. It would be reported, the progress reported at each meeting, so that the board as a whole could reach a consensus on what we've done is good or is on track, and what the next steps would be, so that there would be a guidance there. And that then that the commission would continue to oversee the current manner that goals are followed and accomplishments are reported, until this action item is closed with no more work to be done on it. So what I see the goals are of this action item is, one, to reach a consensus on whether to continue or stop work. And if so, then at this meeting, have a discussion on what our next steps would be, what our current goals and format for going forward. So when I first started this, my approach was to try and get my arms around this very nebulous ball of information when it comes to our goals. And I went back as far as I had hard copies, which was to October 2017. And I used a spreadsheet because that's what I'm most familiar with. So I went through and I read our goals from each meeting, put them on the spreadsheet, and what actions, or if it was ongoing, or if nothing was done on it, it was on hold. And it very quickly, by the time I got into 2019, it was just so unwieldy, I really couldn't continue. So I did a revision number 1, and I threw out everything where it was just ongoing, no action, and tried to condense where it was only where there was some action done in a chronological way. So going from October 2017 to January 2021, that soon became unwieldy. So I went back to revision number 2, and I only recorded, documented goals that had some action taken and what the status was from that action. Then within a spreadsheet, there are individual sheets. I put each goal on a single sheet. And going back through, I actually came up with 11 goals. So there's only 6 that we look at. So to be brief, and again, I was talking with Annie and she was giving me some guidance. We picked goal number 3, which is actually the most complex and involved goal that we have. So I sent the spreadsheet. Annie is not completed, but she did look at it, had some corrections and changes, and sent it back to me to be put in the packet. This is obviously, very obviously, a work in progress. It's strictly a straw man, strictly a starting point, and I am not tied to a spreadsheet format at all. It is just something to get people thinking and deciding, do we want to somehow put together some format to make it easier for us in knowing where we are with our goals, and to also look at what we call a goal. So from here, the next step in hopefully our discussion is to determine whether we want to continue or not, whether to have me work individually with Annie or to put together a subcommittee. So there would be 2 commissioners and Annie. And to maybe address the following questions, and there could very possibly be others, but as a starting point, maybe look at what we have from all the different 11 goals and determine what are our true goals and what type of goals. For such as, are they realistic? Is it current? Is it long-term? Is it aspirational? Is it some other kind of goal to help us in how we want to track them? And what information should be tracked? And when you look at the spreadsheet I have, you'll notice that there are not just dates for meetings, and that is because between meetings at the planning department, things are being done, reports are being put together. So those are dates from when that report, say, is put into our packet. What information do we want to track those dates anyway? And also with reporting, is this something we would want reported on once we have it finalized at every meeting, or just pull out and look at our current goals, our most high priority goals? And as Annie brought up in a previous agenda item, we haven't ever discussed what to do when goals are completed. And part of that is our goals are with properties. And how do we handle some of these things? So I am sorry for, I hope that you were able to follow my presentation, but I do want to have a discussion on this idea. So I now open it up for comments and questions.
Well, thank you for putting in the effort and the work on this, because I think it is very helpful.
Annie, God, my brain's gone. Linda, this gives me hope. You know, I'm reading this and I feel for the first time that maybe we have done things. You know, maybe we are getting somewhere. I think this is just a really valuable tool, what you've put together. And I know that it's a lot of work. And I think we need to find a way that it's not so much work, a way to simplify it. And but I do think that it's very valuable to have something that tracks our progress, you know, our thoughts, our decisions, our efforts. And we can actually, I mean, looking at this, we can actually see that, you know, yes, this is important to us. Yes, we are working on trying to resolve, you know, demolition, partial demolition. I mean, we're working on it, and we're getting somewhere. It just doesn't seem we're getting there very fast. But that's entirely different from feeling like we're treading water, you know. And so I think this is a real important thing to do. I don't know how to simplify it. I think that probably, I mean, for me, it would be very helpful to see this kind of summary once a year, you know, where we can see which goals were completed that in that 1 year, or we don't have to see every goal we've ever done, but just a sort of a current, this is where we are with these topics, and this is what we've done, and this is what we're waiting for, and this is where we're going. That really gives us gives me a sense that I'm here for a reason, and I'm, you know, there's progress. So anyway, those are my thoughts.
Well, we picked this one, demolition and partial demolition, because it has been so complex. Mm-hmm. And as we've tried to kind of chip away and make some kind of progress with it, I think our accomplishments have gotten lost in all the minutia. And you know, for example, taking this, this is where, looking at it, we could maybe separate the two, demolition and partial demolition, and make them, you know, two separate pieces. And then from there, break it down into maybe sub-goals. So where one is something where it's put on the website and something that's in the planning application, so we can see that we are making changes, we are making progress. But again, this is where you're in there and you're working on it. And when you look at our list of goals, we've always had training opportunities as a goal. Is that really a goal? It is. Training is something that's required of us every year. It is part of our budget, and it is just an action that's required, but it's not really a goal. So this is where making an effort to work with it and make identification and maybe clarify what types of goals we have. Because I know that some of them, like the Mills Act, we don't want to fall through the cracks and forget about it, and then 3 years later say, whatever happened to. But when we're looking at it every single meeting, it feels like we're not doing anything. We're not being as proactive as possibly we could. And it's not really fair to us. So, so what are some additional comments on whether to go forward, whether to make the effort, or other options possibly?
Yeah, if I can just make a comment too, Linda, I think like the example of the demolition and partial demolition, there are a lot of pieces, and we have been working on the sustainability update, so there will be code changes to, you know, implement some of the ideas your commission. So I think there has been work behind the scenes that you know, I think this kind of brings that out, and also the idea of breaking it up into separate sub goals, I think will help to kind of, for your commission to be aware that there has been progress made in different areas too. So those are sort of my comments.
Commissioner Perlman, do you have any comments?
Well, I want to thank you for creating this document and recording everything on it, because it's quite sensible and easy to follow. So I would be open, and I would be interested in supporting implementing this into our operations as sort of an occasional plan and revisit document. But I cannot speak on the frequency of when we should visit it, because my experience is so much less than you other commissioners. So I would be up for any recommendations of how anybody would see this to be used.
I think that's a very good comment, and that, again, this is something that is a commission-directed project, and so I think the commission would want to, that would be part of it, is saying, we've done this work, you know, do you want to have a briefing at the next meeting on where it is and see how things are being shaped for further guidance?
You know, I think that's a great idea, because, you know, by the time we get to discuss goals, we're at the very end of the meeting, and we're running out of steam by then. You know, it's like now, you know, we've been talking for, I don't know what, almost 3 hours, and so it's hard to pull. It's hard for me to pull my thoughts. And to continue to talk about this, talk about it a little bit this time, continue the discussion at the next meeting, then we're getting somewhere, you know. It's not something, I mean, this is a great introduction to the whole, this, it's a beautiful spreadsheet. I don't do spreadsheets myself, but I love it when people can. So I just think this is going to be a big help to us.
Alberta, you had your hand up?
Yes, and I've almost forgotten what it was I was going to say.
Oh,
I'll try to reconstruct. It had to do with some things that Mr. Perlman was discussing. I think that we should, when the duct is completed, we should come back at least once a year and discuss it. It should be at the beginning of the discussion for the meeting, so that we have time and we're all open-minded and our brain cells are clear at the beginning of the meeting. And there was something else I was going to say, but I have forgotten it.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm in approval of continuing with this discussion and so forth. Okay?
thank you.
All right.
I-
And by the way, my computer is dying, so I may lose it at any moment.
Okay. My suggestion was to make a time limit because, again, this is a huge undertaking and it will be going on for a while. To say 10 minutes at a meeting set aside for this, and at each meeting, like right now, to discuss what do you want to see at the next meeting. And I think to start off, I would, and again, guidance from the commission, but one, clarify what types of goals that our goals are. So to put together some kind of category system that we would put goals under, so we would know which ones we needed to deal with on a meeting-to-meeting basis and which ones we would maybe, like discussed, look at once a year. To decide what kind of information we would want. And I guess, and then for the next meeting, maybe thinking about if there were any way to change our goals, if there were any changes you would want to make to the goals that were listed. Is there any other information that you would want to see?
In our packets, we received the one pager called Historic Resources Commission Goals for 2020. But aren't there more than 6? Isn't this only one page of the document?
Well, when I went through them, I came up with 11, but then like one goal was to ask Joe Michalak
Right.
to come and make a presentation. One was to have another goal was to have a presentation on the Secretary of Interior standards. We did have Leslie Dill come and give a presentation in person. So that was a completed goal. So my question is, are those really true goals? So Annie actually has the complete spreadsheet, and I can go back, make sure it's as up to date, and clean it up a little bit and then send it to her, and she can send it to everyone so you can see all the goals from October 2017 meeting that were designated as goals to work from. This one is just an example to give you an idea of the format, so whatever changes, or if there's additional information besides action taken and status.
Thank you for clarifying. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. So is that something that the other commissioners would want, the full spreadsheet? And then each goal is on a separate sheet.
Is that making it complicated for you?
No, I just don't, my concern was overwhelming if we sent it all out
Yeah,
as part of the packet. But for something like the watch list, it's like 2 things on there, so it's really short. Other than we're going to keep looking at the watch list, and there's no staff time for updating it. There hasn't been much movement to that action item. So this is where you would look at that one, and I would also suggest that I would like to standardize the numbers so that goal number 1 is always the same, goal number 2 is always the same.
that's a good idea.
So it makes it easier to talk about a goal. And then determine how often you want to have that goal reported on.
But it seems like too that once it's set up, then the next time we see it, there's not as much work involved. There's just additional.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just think, like if we saw it once a year, but saw the active list, so we still say these are our goals. Is there any?
Exactly, and I think it would be easier then to identify, we want to see in each meeting goal number 2, 3, 5, and 8, say.
Yeah.
And those would be the ones, and we would know that there are other goals, but there isn't the movement or actions on them. And I volunteer to be the one to keep this up to date and continue working with Annie on it.
Yeah, and if I can just add, typically January is the meeting where, the commission sets goals for the year. So that could be the date where it's sort of a comprehensive look at the spreadsheet too. That would be one way to do it.
That'd be perfect.
And then we could be removing any, or we would see that completed tasks are then, they fall off the list.
Right.
And open up room for the new things coming in. Yeah, that sounds like a cohesive methodology that will contribute to our effectiveness.
So let me just do a recap, and then we need to take a motion and vote on this. So I will continue to work with Annie on this project. For the next meeting, I will put together a list of categories, and I will list what goals I think falls under those categories. And this is all for the board to then discuss, review, change as they feel it should be. I will list what information, and you can get an idea there of what information would be included on the spreadsheet. And again, anything that you feel is not pertinent or is vital and needs to be added, needs to be tracked, you can, we can discuss that. And we can, since you'll have all of the goals and see what's been completed, what hasn't, and you've got this list. So looking at the goals, which ones we should change, remove. Let's start putting together then what we consider our true goal list. And then some of them where we should maybe make them into sub-goals. And what those sub-goals would be. So they're in manageable pieces where we can be making progress. And then that will be it for the next meeting. And then from there, we'll decide what is the next piece of work that needs to be done on this. How does the commission feel on that? Does that seem like enough, too much for the next meeting?
That sounds good to me.
It sounds good to me. I have a concern that I would like to see. I'm not sure I can express this the way it's going around in my head, but I'll try. Are these goals our personal and internal working goals as a working group, or do these goals become part of the criteria that the public evaluates of our performance in our job, and whether these goals can be, are they something that can be discussed and challenged by the public, or are they an internal document for the commissioner's exclusive use?
I can make a comment on that.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you.
Any business of the commission can be a public document. So the answer is no, like it can't be for the exclusive use. I wouldn't necessarily have to publish it anywhere, but certainly if anyone wanted to request it as a, public records request, we would share that. And the certified local government report that we do each year, they also ask for the commission's list of goals in that report. So yeah. So I think that, I think the way I think about the spreadsheet is I think it is sort of a working document to help sort out what the goals are, and what, like, the actual list of goals would probably end up being a shorter document maybe. But so that's kind of how I think about the spreadsheet. It is a public document, but I think the actual sort of list of goals might be at some point, possibly might be a shorter document.
And the list of goals would be more of the publicly relevant document.
Right, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I thank you for that.
I think of this as a working document, not something that's codified, like our bylaws or like our accomplishments that get sent higher up. But definitely it is open to the public for them to see this. So is there any last minute comments or questions? Otherwise, let's take a vote. We'll get a motion going.
I move that we adopt this methodology for measuring our progress against our goals.
I second it.
All right. So we now have a motion to approve this goal tracking system. And so do we have, so we're now going to vote. Commissioner Orlando?
Yes.
Commissioner Perlman?
Yes.
Commissioner Swift?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips? Yes. The motion for approval is passed. All right, thank you. Thank you very much for your patience, attention, and comments, feedback. Number 9, commissioner presentations. I think there was a comment that someone was going to make at this time.
Yes. I think that it would be important for us to make a statement that would thank and appreciate and support the work of Commissioner Merriam over the many years that she committed to the Historic Resources Commission. I know that I will miss her. She was a friendly, helpful, very positive force to me as a new guy coming on. And I believe that we all appreciated her work very much.
So Annie, such a letter. We definitely want to send one to Susie. Could we also send, would it be appropriate, send something to the board? You know, the supervisor board, letting them know how much she contributed to our commission during her tenure? I don't know, since her supervisor is gone.
You know, it seems to me it would be really appropriate for the supervisor, her supervisor, to thank her for all she's done, because it just, to me, it seems that the commissioners really do spend a lot of time and their mental effort to be part of the commission, to do, you know, to do the job. And she was incredibly helpful. Susie was, you know, I'd say a third of our brain, more than that. I mean, you know, we could count on her to come up with things that we don't, as a group, have the expertise. She could add, based on her vast knowledge, she could help guide us, and
including her master's degree in history.
Yeah, she knew an enormous amount, and I think we relied on that a great deal. And I don't think there's a way we can really let her know how much we appreciated it. But we, you know, I think that there should be people that we should be saying, "Hey, this was really a valuable asset to the."
Yeah.
And yeah.
If I may add, Susie and I were recently working together on the Merriman panels, and she and I had a discussion, just kind of talking through and sharing our interest in the commission and its future. And she mentioned to me, she said, you know, there is a possibility that I would be removed from the commission by the new supervisor, but I highly doubt it. Why in the world would that ever happen? So I can tell you that she was taken by surprise when it occurred. You know, that's at the will of the board of supervisors. That part of their authority and responsibility is to select their commissioners, and we'll do nothing but respect that at the moment. But yeah, I really think that there should at least be something that comes from all of us collectively thanking her for her participation and teamwork and leadership. And there you have it.
I think, well, I told her, Susie, that years ago, I don't even know when, I was appointed by the Watsonville supervisor. And there was a new Watsonville supervisor, and they removed me, just like Susie's been removed. And they didn't tell me. I came to the next meeting and I said, "Oh, my name tag's gone," you know. And that was, you know, it was kind of a blow. So Are you guys still there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was muted before.
No, I just, sometimes the whole thing freezes and I'm talking and everybody's gone. But everybody was surprised. The whole commission was surprised. And somebody came and got me and took me away and sort of escorted from the building. And
Oh my goodness.
well, because they just weren't ready. The planner she was aghast. She paled. But the commission was so good to me because every time I came back and talked before the commission, they were always welcoming, and they let me know they missed me, and that really helped a lot.
Right.
It wasn't as disastrous as it felt at the time. So I think it's important that we let Susie know that what she meant to us, and that we look forward to seeing her again somehow.
Yeah, she did receive a letter from the new supervisor letting her know that she had not been reappointed, and he did thank her for her work on the commission. And I did reach out to Susie myself to thank her. So, and I think your commission sending a letter is a great idea, and I think it would, I will certainly miss her on the commission. I think it would be meaningful to her for her to receive that from the commission as well. So
I wish there was a way we could all personally sign it.
Well, I think that the times being what they are, that's going to be difficult. But if, like, the chair, vice chair, was to write the letter and just say everybody discussed this and really wanted to sign the letter, but we can't if we want you to get it before next year. It's because the time, it's just difficult now. She'd understand that, but if she knew, we'd all talked about it and talked about how we miss her and all the things that she did for us, she would get that.
Yeah, no, I can definitely put together a letter and for her. The only address I have is her job at the city of Watsonville. But yeah, I can put together something and send it out from the board.
yeah, I have our home address as well, Linda. If you would rather send it there, I can get you that.
Okay. All right. Then I'll make that an action item for me. Is there any other presentations from the commissioners? All right, then 10, everyone read the written communication, and Annie sent out what her reply was to it. So
Yeah, if I could, I could just say my main concern about the letter from Ms. Steinbrenner is there were some inaccuracies in it, so I just want to make sure that the commission was aware of those.
no, thank you very much for your
Yeah,
response.
thank you for that.
Well, inaccuracies in what?
Well, in the letter, she, the state historic tax credit, she said there's a limited time available, and why hasn't, I want all these things done, and I had to let her know that the state has not actually, there's no funding for that now, so it's not active yet. So things like that were, I think, just important.
I missed this topic.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I think it's important that when people, when the public makes suggestions to us, that they're based on accuracy. And if they're not based on accuracy, then I think it's the job of our commission to disconsider them. So this is sort of like, I take a similar position to the Seabreeze Tavern. And that is that we need to somewhat let people know that they are responsible for their actions, just like they hold us responsible for ours. And a certain amount of strength and requiring that, or naming, I should say, as you did here, the inaccuracies and just pointing them out so that we clear the deck and we're working on reality, not opinions, is very important.
I just wanted to add that I appreciate members of the public, though, that let us know what they're thinking. And sometimes it's hard for us to pay attention to everything, but I still appreciate getting, the interest.
Yes, I agree with that.
There's an important role that I'll use this word, and it's not meant negatively, but there's a important role of watchdogs because they help keep us in balance, and I surely would agree with that. It's just that when they're watching, it's important that they're as accurate as they require us to be.
But then we can work together with them on, helping them get the right information, and they help us get the right information.
Yep.
Okay. So, then, Annie?
Yes.
So, would this meeting be, the appropriate meeting to do a summary for our next meeting's agenda? Or will that go into effect at our next meeting?
I think it's probably okay to do that at this meeting.
Okay.
One thing I did want to note that will be on the next agenda is I'll have to confirm this with the Museum of Art and History, but that's what they agreed to last year, is a review of the budget in July. So that would be one thing that I would plan to have on the July meeting agenda.
Okay.
Excellent. That's good.
Next time we'll be getting an update on the sea breeze, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we'll also be, I believe you will be coming back for a update on the goal spreadsheet, Linda.
Yes.
Will we be reviewing the annual CLG?
Yes, thank you, Barry.
That's on the full agenda right there.
Okay.
Well, while Annie's pulling it together, what I would ask the board is that they go back to July's packet last year and look at the budget for mall and see how they broke down what they said their funding was spent, because it probably will be somewhat similar. So if you have any questions, you've got a little preparation ready. I know they didn't do much as far as they were closed and so on, though they are planning a special event with this gentleman who travels all around the country. And he puts up these big red balls like balloons to get a discussion going and puts them in kind of odd places. So I know he's the new executive director, Mr. Wolf, I think. He's going to be putting it out in the courtyard and then having the community come and discuss and talk and so on.
Okay, the other thing we talked about having on the next agenda, it looks like Alverda is, I know she said her computer was on its way out, but she had mentioned wanting to consider adding properties in Davenport to the watch list. So I will reach out to her and see if she's ready to do that at the next meeting or not.
Very good.
And then there may be other things that come up as well between now and July that be on the agenda, but that's my record of what we've discussed today or that I'm aware of that would be on the next agenda.
So, Annie, in January, at the last meeting, did we talk about training? Because I know we were hoping that possibly things would open up where toward the end of the year, there might be some in-person.
Oh, training, right. Yes, we could certainly talk about that in July, and I can just look and see, or, other commissioners' ideas about trainings. I can look and see if there's any, live trainings that have been announced instead of
Yeah, see if there's some things opening up.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, Carolyn, do you have any comments on, for our July agenda?
No.
Okay, I think this is great. So let's see, if there's no more comments, then I will adjourn this meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn at 12:36?
I'll move to adjourn.
All right. Barry, you want to second it?
Sure, of course.
All right, we are out of here.
Thank you very much for chairing the meeting, Linda.
Unlike you, I have parking to consider.
Oh, my God.
And Annie, thank you for preparing very thoroughly for this meeting.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you all. Thank you all for your dedication to the commission. I appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.